All right, friends. I have a commitment to get us out of here by noon, because noon corresponds with when the kids come out of their church school. And so we're going to get this meeting going. And I want to welcome you to our annual parish meeting. And you can keep getting stuff while I'm talking, but I do want to let our secretary of the vestry know that I've done a head count. And we have more than 60 parishioners in here, so if you would please record a quorum for us, that'd be wonderful. And people are still coming in. All right, friends, we are going to just keep moving. I'd like to invite John Welsh to come up. John is our head teller this year. John is going to explain to us. We're going to just do the nominating or the voting real fast right up front. This is probably one of the easiest years, and John will explain to you why. And so I'll hand him the microphone at this point. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Harry. So this morning we are electing our vestry nominees for. There's actually 4 slots open or 3 slots open for a full term. 3 slots open for a full term, and there's 1 partial term. Because we have the same number of candidates as we do for spots, we're going to ask that we award those positions on acclamation, unanimous. So if we can have the secretary do so.
I cast a unanimous vote for John Astori for Senior Warden, John Stewart for Junior Warden, Carol Bartholomew, Beth Campbell, Julie Grochowski, and Maura Lynch for vestry members.
Do we have a second? Second? All those in favor for, no, John, you actually have to participate. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So we've now elected our senior and junior warden and vestry candidates by acclamation. Thank you. We actually do have a, well, that's all right. We actually do have a competitive election for the convention delegate. So you have a ballot in front of you. I ask that you mark 1 and only 1 vote for one of those 2 individuals. And their pictures are up here. Tim Dobbin and Tom Hebert. I think many of you know them. They've been very active in the parish here at St. John's. Having served at the diocesan level, this is actually a very interesting and fun position. You not only get to attend convention, but bring those messages back to St. John's. And the top vote getter will have the seat. The second vote getter will get the alternate. And I can assure you that the alternate almost attends every convention because someone else can't attend who's already been nominated. So this is, we actually have 4 convention delegates. We're electing 1 for the open spot and 1 as an alternate. So if you can cast your ballot, we're going to collect those ballots now. We'll go off and count. We hope we get this right since it's only 1 competitive election. And then I'll turn this back over to Sari.
Thank you.
So cast your ballots. We'll collect them, pass them to the middle, and then we'll continue.
So just take a minute and do that. And please just make sure you pass off your ballot to John. Or just pass them down. John will come pick them up from you. Thank you. Thanks, John. A round of applause for our head teller, and our tellers back there. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to offer my remarks right up front. Today, we're basically everything I'm talking about, there's a slideshow behind it, and I'm really excited, and we'll tell you a little bit more as we go along about some of the exciting things that we're looking forward to sharing with you today. But I was just having to describe in writing what St. John's is as a part of my doctoral work that I'm doing. And at seminary, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit about my sabbatical. But I had to describe the parish, and I said St. John's is a large, vibrant, and fairly active congregation. And I hope to show you today in my remarks how this is the case. First, I want you to know, maybe you don't know this, but on average, we have close to 500 people who attend St. John's worship services every Sunday, which is amazing. And I want you to know that in the last year, 69 new parishioners have joined the church, if you can imagine. So this is one of these beautiful things where people come to St. John's, they find something meaningful here, and they choose to stay. And so what I want to do now is kind of show you some of the highlights that we've done at St. John's this past year since the last annual parish meeting. Now, there's no way that I can show you all the wonderful things that St. John's does and talk about each of them. I am going to highlight a few, but know that there is so much more that happens at St. John's and that are worthy of being mentioned that I simply don't have time to mention today. And I'm organizing my thoughts based on our core four, which is the core values of St. John's: worship, grow, build community, make a difference, which you'll see those words up in our West Avenue lobby. And so I'm going to start with worship. And there are so many wonderful things and aspects of our ministries that go into just making Sunday possible. And you'll see them listed up here. And every single one of these categories has devoted volunteers who implement them. And so I want to pull out a couple of things. First, just to say music this year, I want to highlight that Anne Timpain celebrated her 10th year as our music director at St. John's. And that is just a wonderful thing. I think she's going to come to this meeting in a little bit. Oh, there she is, Anne. Thank you so much. Just such a vibrant part of our worship. There's some more pictures. There's Anne with some flowers. That was at Broadway and Chocolate, our 11th Broadway and Chocolate this year. I want to highlight our children's chapel. And we have a growing number of kids who attend children's chapel. We're now at a consistent 20. And when people ask me, how many services do you have at St. John's, I say 5 every Sunday. And I'm including the children's chapel service in that because that is its own thing. And so in a little bit, we'll have a chance to thank all of our staff members, including Pamela Terry. Crib room, I don't know how many of you know that downstairs every Sunday we offer childcare. So those are the kids that are not old enough for children's chapel, and their parents would really love the break so that they can worship without the kids right there next to them. So we have 2 professional, reliable paid nursery staff who take care of that. So if you ever see someone struggling with a kid, tell them about it without making it sound like you're doing it for you, like please take your kid downstairs, All right, let me move to grow. A lot in this category, but first I just want you to recognize that St. John's Church School is one of the most amazing parts of what we do here. And we have this year, it's such a robust ministry, over 250 kids enrolled in church school. Not that many attend every Sunday. We probably have a consistent 170 or 180 on Sundays. But still, we have this year, in the last year, 30 new steady attenders in church school from 17 new families who have joined St. John's. Every week, 34 volunteers make that ministry happen. They're teaching our kids. And one thing that's kind of not really a trend in other places, and I say like almost a real gift, and we should recognize this, is that we have as many kids from 5th grade down as we do from 6th grade up at St. John's Church School. This year, we're sending another big group of pilgrims, our J2A class, which is our 10th and 11th graders. We're sending them off to their pilgrimage. This is the largest ever J2A class, 28 kids. And we supported them through our auction recently, and we were looking forward in June to see them off on their pilgrimage. And I want you to know that every other year we do confirmation classes at St. John's, and this year we're having 25 people from St. John's going to the National Cathedral in May to be confirmed. And the majority of them are our J2A class, and then we have several adults. If this is something you're interested in, being confirmed as an Episcopalian, you come from a different tradition and you've never done that, please come talk to us. We'd love to get you hooked up and make you officially one of us as an Episcopalian, because you're definitely one of us already as a member of this parish. This past year, we also took our second Holy Land pilgrimage, and this is one of the announcements I'm making to you today, is that we already have the dates for the next one. So if you are interested in joining me in taking a trip to the Holy Land, the next pilgrimage is in 2018. The dates are April 16 through 26. We already have a brochure for this, and it includes costs, it includes all the locations, the places we're going to, the itinerary, everything like that. If you would like to be a part of this trip and you want a copy of the brochure as a PDF, please email Jonna Story, our new senior warden whom you just elected. And her email is right here. She is actually our trip organizer, and she will send you all the contact info. But you need to reserve a spot really soon because they're filling up. Ever since the last pilgrimage, people are already putting their names on the list. So we really would love for you to join us. It's a memory you will never forget. Build community. Everything that we do at St. John's entails building community. There's a few that are very specifically oriented toward this. Koinonia dinners we launched this last year, another one of the wonderful things that we've undertaken, thanks to Ann Dursey, our community life coordinator. These are dinner groups, and we ran them for a whole year. Some succeeded, some didn't. We learned from some of the best parts of it, and now we have a new and improved Koinonia dinner gatherings that you can select based on certain criteria that you're looking for in how to build community, age group, demographics, all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in connecting and getting more closely connected to other parishioners at St. John's through Koinonia dinner groups, please contact Ann Dursey. Women's retreat, we had 31 women this past year attend the women's retreat at Claggett Center. That's a wonderful turnout. We had 19 men attend the Episcopal Retreat Center of Shrinemont in Blue Ridge Mountains. And I want to take an opportunity to thank Joe and Meredith Clark for their leadership in making the men and women's retreats possible, respectively. Thank you. Who did I miss? Oh, that's it. Make a difference. This is the first year in about 10 years that we've had a seminarian intern. And Becca Kello, who is here with us, and thanks to Elizabeth, who is her supervisor, Elizabeth Tessie, our associate, made that happen. And this is the second to last Sunday that Becca will be with us. So Becca, thank you so much for being among us, and what an achievement for St. John's. Now let me run through some of the make a difference things that we do at St. John's. Pastoral care. You see some of the things that we do here. I want to highlight two pieces of pastoral care that you need to know about. First, in this past year, we started a new ministry, which is the Visiting Readers Ministry. This is the brainchild of Joanne Allen, one of our choir members here at St. John's, and she worked closely with Elizabeth Tessie to make sure that we could launch this thing. There was a Norwood Parish Fund grant that made this possible. What is the Visiting Readers? It's people from St. John's who go and read to other parishioners who could use a little more attention right now because they're maybe recovering from an illness or they're homebound. It's not because those people can't read themselves. It's just a way of connecting. It's choosing a book together and just having a book read to you. And it is already a thriving ministry. If this is something that sounds like something you'd like to be a part of, please let Elizabeth know. Another ministry that we are launching really soon is called Fence Breakers. Elizabeth also is working very closely with a couple of parishioners, Susan Bradley and Liz Mulliken. Fence Breakers is this name for our community care groups. Basically, we're looking at where people live, and we're trying to find a way for people to take care of one another in times of crisis, giving people rides, just so that we're a community, really a community, not just here at St. John's, but in our own world. And so I'd like to let you know that Elizabeth is going to soon be promoting this, and you're going to hear much more about it. Fence Breakers, it's a name that you want to remember. I know I'm going through these quickly. Outreach. These are all the ministries that our outreach efforts at St. John's support. All of this. I had a homeless person come this last week and ask for money. And I said to him, dude, we don't give out cash. Like, we just don't do that. But we contribute to many ministries that will support you. And he was like, well, what ministries? And I started reading these to him. And by the end of it, he was just like, you guys give to this many ministries? And he was like, which one of them works for me? And I started pointing to them. So I just want you to know we're doing great things in that department. But one thing in particular is this past year we took on directly a supporting relationship with a hospital in the West Bank in Nablus, St. Louis Hospital. And we are responsible at this point for half a salary of a nurse there. This coming pilgrimage, we're going to actually go visit that hospital. So, this last year, we furnished 3 apartments for refugees that are getting resettled in America, and we've had over 50 volunteers from St. John's participate in this effort. And even our 4th grade class made welcome baskets for the children of the most recent family who came to this country. And so there's some pictures of our new budding ministry through Lutheran Social Services. Camp Joy. We sent another group of 7th to 12th grader teens from our youth group to do their Habitat for Humanity type activity in West Virginia. And this is the 25th year that we've done this. It's an amazing outreach thing that our young people do. We started this year an interfaith relationship with our Muslim brothers and sisters locally, with 2 mosques, one more than the other one, and this happened thanks to Donald Trump. So, another successful Earth Day fair that we did this year. We marched in the Pride Parade again this year for the 5th year, and then in June, we're going to do it again, and we are currently still the only Episcopal church in Montgomery County that marches in the Pride Parade. And it's so exhilarating. You can take your kids to it. It's great. We walk through the streets, and we just share the love of Christ through Frisbees. So it's a wonderful ministry. The date of the next one is June 10 or June 11. June 10 or 11? Saturday, June the 10th. So if you'd like to be a part of that, please let us know. Vision process. This last year was an amazing year for us. September 18 through December 11, basically all fall, we had these incredible vision forums where we're learning more about the needs of our community. Here's some of the highlights. 12 Sunday forums. We had 3 special events on top of that. 1 book discussion on top of that. 1 workshop. 12 sermons. We had 19 guest speakers. And we had 483 response forms from our parishioners, basically responding to your impressions and what you think we should be doing. Again, just kind of because we don't have a ton of time, I want you to know that the Vision team, a group of 4 individuals, are still meeting weekly now to plan for phase 3, which is the next step. What do we do with all that information that we learned? How do we narrow down the scope and keep moving toward this beautiful process of what are we going to do in our local community to really make a difference? So there's going to be more on that as we go along. Administration and property. This is the last category I'm going to go through today. Can you tell that I'm using a wireless mic and I'm controlling everything wirelessly here? This is thank you to Joe and Betsy Samuel, who made a generous contribution. Now we have a whole new AV system in this parish hall. We also have a new monitor in the West Avenue lobby. We totally updated the whole thing. I hope you've noticed that. We're still working on getting better benches in there. If you've ever felt like, I hope I don't fall when I'm sitting on one of those. We're getting better benches, and we're looking forward just making this place more hospitable. I'm going to invite in a little bit Karen Berry, our Director of Church Operations, to come forward to tell you about a new website that's launching for St. John's and a new database that makes all kinds of awesome things possible. So that's one of the exciting announcements today you'll hear about in a little bit. And then new signage outside, just, again, to make it look like people actually go to church here. So now with property, I don't know if we realize how much it takes to make this place function. And I want to just highlight some of the amazing things we've done this year. Just this year, we have a new air conditioning unit in Mary's Chapel and in the chancel where the organ pipes are. More energy efficient lighting in the parish hall, new stone and brickwork in the Memorial Garden and Wisconsin Avenue entrance. We've done repairs to the slate roof and gutters. Handicap ramp has been installed in the parking lot. We've replaced all the smoke detectors in the facility. We shared the cost with our Oneness Family School tenants. Replaced the sexton's kitchen, so Jesus and Dora live here in the building, and they have a new kitchen now. It was desperately in need of updating. And then replaced hot water heaters for the building, and then we have new benches for the Memorial Garden. So all of that is thanks to our property committee working in tandem with our director of church operations. I think they deserve a hand of appreciation today. All right, so, and then the adjacent property. Here's the kind of the recap of that. So over the past year, our church, through the work of the Development for Community Committee, DCC, has participated in the Montgomery County Council's deliberations on Bethesda Downtown Plan. There's two things that we've been advocating for. One is uniform zoning for our building so that we can, in the future, do renovations and not be hindered by split zoning. And then the other one is a setback from our Memorial Garden and Sanctuary between our church and whatever building is going to be built here in the parking lot. And the county will likely adopt a final downtown plan this summer. Now, we tried to work with the developer next door to secure parking and to have input on the design of the building. Those efforts failed, and we are still working to make sure that we're going to secure parking in the future for our church, and that's an ongoing process. Just looking forward a little bit before we move on to the next piece. This summer, I take my sabbatical, and St. John's gives the rector here a very generous 6-month sabbatical. I think that's too much to take at one point, and I'm still considering what that's going to look like for the future. But I know for this summer, I'm going to take 3 months. And I am going to share with you more about what the church is going to look like while I'm gone, and we're making sure to infrastructure it so that our life here doesn't miss a beat. And one of the cool things that I want to tell you is that I am putting together a list of really exhilarating preachers. So already I can tell you Bishop Mary Ann Buddy's coming to preach one Sunday. Frank Wade, former rector of St. Albans, is coming. Bishop Gene Sutton from the Diocese of Maryland is coming. And we have more people kind of along those lines. So I invite you to keep a heads up for a preaching booklet that I'm going to give you, and it'll have the bios and have also the dates of everyone who's going to be coming. So again, more information, all your questions will be answered about this. And look forward to telling you more as we go along. And when I come back from the sabbatical to share more with you about that time. I would like to take now an opportunity to do some recognitions. And I'm going to step away from this podium, and we're going to put the faces of everyone that we're recognizing, people who stepped down from ministries, people who have stepped onto ministries, and we're looking at the chairs of committees and vestry members and all of that. Now, there's no way we can mention every single person involved in every ministry who needs to be recognized today. Otherwise, that would have been the whole hour. But know that behind every one of these individuals that we're looking at today are members of committees who have made it possible for those committees to function. Also, I'm going to ask everyone to stay seated, even if your name comes up. And at the very end, if your name was mentioned and your face was on the screen, I will invite you to stand, all as a group, and we'll celebrate you collectively. So let's start. So we'll, outgoing vestry, a little background music. Just so that, Roxy Wolf, our senior warden, hold your applause to the very end, please. Stephanie Bullock, stepping off vestry. Tom Hebert. Jessica Snyder. Officers of the vestry who are transitioning off. This year said goodbye to Scott Cotter, our treasurer. Officers of the vestry transitioning on will welcome John Mertens, new treasurer. This is the delegates transitioning off, delegates to convention. Kurt Ellison, Sue Rowan. And now ministry chairs transitioning off. Lizzie Glidden Boyle is transitioning off as chair of Flower Guild. Kurt Ellison, personnel. Jay Everhart, Norwood Parish Fund. Liz Everhart, Outreach. Alexei Silverman, Outreach. Ann Gregg, Memorial Garden. Rosemarie Fonseca, Greeters Ministry. Katie Thomas, Parish Life. Staff members transitioning off. Cynthia Grimes this summer after Camp Joy will be stepping down as youth group leader. Now, this is all the ministry chairs that are transitioned on this year. Sarah Weitzel, Norwood Parish Fund, co-chair. Elizabeth DuPont Spencer, Norwood Parish Fund, co-chair. Julia Andrews for Outreach. Anna Danielson, Flower Guild. Catherine Suarez, Memorial Garden. Maya Burns, Memorial Garden. Amy Beaupre, Parish Life. Joe and Betsy Samuel, Adult Forums, Winter, Spring. And this year we're supporting them with some other chairs, ministry chairs who will be doing all our adult forums, coordinating them for the fall. This is Bill and Lisa Reisner. And they'll be doing the work also with Amy Hauser and Steve Volkers. And now some special recognitions. We recognize Becca Kello, our seminarian. Gary Dean for putting together the narrative budget that he'll be talking about a little bit later today. Mary Plocky for photography. Beth Campbell, our interim finance chair. Our DCC co-chairs, Brad Kennedy and Alex Schmant. John Ross, Vision Implementation Committee co-chair. And of course, our Vision Pillar teams that made the Vision Fall Forums possible. And the officers of the vestry, John Mertens, Treasurer Pat Cascio, our Secretary of the vestry, Craig Ullman, Chancellor. And of course, none of what we do here would be possible without your church staff, whom I've asked to be here with us today. So if you're a staff member, would you please come forward so that we can thank you together? And if you were, you saw your face on the screen, would you please stand and let's thank all of our people. There's one more thing we need to do here today, and we do this every year, but we have to remember those a part of our community members who passed away in the last year since the last annual parish meeting. So could you please stand with me and just direct your eyes to the screen, and we'll just take a moment of silence as we remember them. Please be seated. I would like to invite now Gary Dean to come forward. And how many of you saw the narrative budget that was emailed to you? How many actually opened it? It's really worth taking a look at this. Gary's going to talk to us a little bit about it at this time.
All right, good morning, thank you. So the narrative budget was sent out with a PDF. There's a couple copies that are on the bulletin board out there, and if you need a printed copy, let us know and we'll print one. That is, and you can't otherwise get it electronically. Obviously, you can see the expense that would be involved in printing a whole bunch of 11-page color things, but if you need it, let us know. All right, so in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to just cover the key areas of our 2017 budget, our narrative budget, and it dovetails very nicely with the descriptions that Sarah gave about the accomplishments of 2016. Big surprise. I mean, the major efforts are continuing, et cetera. Given the time frame, please hold all questions to the end, and if we have time, I'll answer them, and I'll stay around afterwards, and I'm always available to answer any questions you may have. Next slide. Okay, so what is the narrative budget? Just real quickly, because it's a new concept for many of us. It does not take the place of a line item budget. Okay, all it is taking that line item budget and put it into words and pie charts to understand what that budget is actually doing. And it tells the story of what St. John's theological statement is, because a budget is a powerful theological statement. So that's the main thing. It's not replacing a line item budget, but telling us the story. Next slide, please. The rules of the road. Well, how is it made? All right, and just real quickly, that's what it is. We have our 5 overarching areas. You heard the core 4 again already. We're familiar with them. The worship, the grow, and as we all know, that's individually spiritual growth, not grow numbers of congregation. Build community, make a difference. And then the 5th, so that's our core 4. The 5th key area is the governance and operation. All right? So those are the 5 overarching areas. Every ministry, activity, and function, all of them that you've heard about today, all you're going to hear, all you can read about, was mapped to one of those 5 areas. Okay? And in toto, that is, for example, music. Obviously huge impacts across perhaps all 5 areas. Well, it is primarily worship. So that we don't lose the investment that we have in the music ministry, we keep it all there. So the fact that it's binned under an area does not mean that it's not having repercussions and importance elsewhere. All right, but we lose that fidelity and the granularity if we were to split it. Next, every without exception, line item from the line item budget was then mapped to one, well, there was an exception, to one ministry, activity, or function. Okay, so you can follow each penny from each line item in the budget to where it is being reflected in the narrative budget and a pie chart, and vice versa. The only exception to that is Sarah's salary, benefits, and expenses. Okay, that's the only one that is spread across more than one, and it's a spread across all 5, because he functions and is key and critical to all 5. That's the only one. We do not split any others. It's the rules of the road. Next slide. This is our revenue. You can see there's nothing big surprise on the sources of our revenue. So this is just letting you know. That's how much it was, $1.285 million. Pretty typical. That is the sources of the income. Members' pledges were up a bit. Now we had the close the gap, which you can see right there, and that's set out separately because that was a contribution, one-time type contributions. But other than that, there's nothing new about that. But that's how much there was. Next slide, please. All right, now this is the beginning of the new stuff and the way it's being shown. Not new in the way it's operated, new in the way it's being shown. All right. So we have our whole budget, and you can see then for each of the core four, that's the amount, and then the fifth one, the governance and operation. All right. So you can see that's our 5 major areas. Those are our investments and the amounts for them. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, now worship, I'm going to take a moment and talk about this one a bit so you can understand and what we're doing. So first, not included in this is any worship function or activity or ministry that's not funded through the operating budget. At this time, the narrative budget is just looking at the dollars, not the other contributions of time and talent. We hope to be able to grow to that and capture, because that's an important resource. All right. At this point, it's purely dollars. So, if there, anything that is not receiving operating budget money, so there's no money to be shown, it's not in the pie chart. Okay. Good example. Flower Guild. Takes a lot of time. Hey, exactly. Takes a lot of time. A not insignificant amount of money. Okay. Very important. It's not an operating budget funded ministry, so it's not in this pie chart. It is, however, in the full narrative budget, so we give that due credit. Okay. The other piece, and you're going to see this carried through, so we have the other worship ministries and activities. Okay. What we're showing here, and you'll see, is what's called, at least I call, the major muscle movements, as the major consumers of the financial resources. That's not to say importance. Okay. For example, your legs take a lot from your body. Okay. Very important. Your amygdala, your hippocampus, doesn't demand a whole lot. Some would say that's more important than your legs. Okay. So that's all that we're talking about here. Otherwise, you'd have a bunch of pie slices, then it gets lost in what the major thrust is. So, moving along. Worship budget, go back, sorry. So yeah, I'm not going to say all that for all the 3 because that applies to all the rest. So music ministries, the major muscle movement on that. You see how that breaks out. Children's Chapel. You heard from Sari talking about what was accomplished last year and then some comments about what they're doing in the future. That's our investment to what they're doing in 2017. Next slide. Grow. All right, so this is our personal and spiritual growth. The key major muscle movement there is the church school, and then we have a number of the other grow ones. So that's the significant investment then that we have in our grow area. Next slide. Build community. Repeating again, that's what it is. The total amounts, there's many other things that go into that is not operating budget items, so it's not being reflected here. One point on this, our community life coordinator is not included in this because her salary is funded through individual donations through this calendar year. That is, it's not an operating budget expense. If St. John's wants to continue that office, that function, that means there's going to have to be a new add-on to the budget request and ultimate budget to continue that on. So just awareness of that point. Next, make a difference. So we see this has the most number of breakouts. Let me talk about this block here to show some of the things. So there's a lot that St. John's does, which is financial even, doesn't go through the operating budget. And so it's not reflected, but very important. So for example, in 2016, the Opportunity Shop contributed $17,000 in outreach. That's not an operating, it didn't go through the budget, so you won't see it reflected here. The auction had $12,000. MPF gave a grant for the hospital, and those didn't go through the budget, so they're not shown in these pie charts. We do capture the thoughts, et cetera, in the text, so those things aren't lost, but for these purposes and what you're seeing here. So that's our make a difference. Next slide, please. Governance and operation. All right, so we have in this, we have the operational staff, okay? And I use the word operational because operation includes Sari. Sari's not administrative, Okay, so that operational staff, is that governance piece, and then his support staff that we've talked about and seen. So that's what the operations staff is. Now understand, okay, so by the rules of the road, just using for example, because it's easy, we talked about it, not singling it out necessarily by person, and Tim Payne's salary is not in this here, because it's already being shown under music, under worship. Okay, so by this, we are showing those, this is by function, okay? This is the cost for the governance and operation of this organization, St. John's. Then administrative, and that's not the people, that's the copy paper, et cetera, those types of things. Then you get into the property reserves, some operating reserves, and then just some small, fairly ancillary other stuff. Questions? How are we doing on time? That's probably about 5. So if you have questions afterwards, I'll be around. Thank you so much.
Beth Campbell, who is our acting finance chair, was to speak this morning and offer this report on the church finances. She's not able to be here, but in her absence, she has provided a statement which I will read from Beth. As we hope you know, it is a goal of the parish leadership to continue to grow a culture of generosity at St. John's. You all responded to the call to more than close the gap in our 2017 budget shortfall. And thanks to that generosity, the vestry was able to pass a balanced budget this year. This fall, we look forward to planning for 2018 with continued focus on generosity and giving. Over the past 16 or so months, several important administrative changes have been undertaken, including upgrading our accounting software, improving the membership database, a significant transition in the job duties and reporting structure of the parish bookkeeper, and a transition to a new treasurer. We are currently engaged in a routine and in-depth voluntary audit, something that we do every few years. Through it all, our finance committee has worked diligently to ensure as much stability as possible. And as a result of these various transitions, we've become more aware of areas in our bookkeeping processes that can be done better and more efficiently. And we are working diligently to arrive at the best, most transparent process possible. Given that the audit is still in progress, we do not have current financial statements to review today. However, we will produce and publish those as soon as the audit is complete.
Thank you, Roxy, and thank you, Beth, in her absence. Any questions that you guys have on all that information before we move on? We're kind of behind schedule a little bit, but I definitely don't want to just plow over that. All right. I'd like to, Mary. The narrative budget is right on the front page of our website. As soon as you go on the website, you can click on it. Again, that is, I've been here 7 years. This is probably the most descriptive piece that has been written about all that we do at St. John's. So it is worth reading. You will learn things about this community that you call home. So I invite you to take a look at that. All right. I'd like to invite Susan Shulkin to come forward now. And Susan is going to give us a new sneak peek at our new website. So here you go.
All right. Good morning. So what did you do here?
Just tap.
Tap?
You get to your
Oh, I get my whole thing. All right. So good morning, everyone. My name is Susan Shulkin, and I'm going to do a very quick presentation about the new website that's coming up. So, oh, it works. This is fantastic. First of all, I just want to give thanks for our current website and the folks who were responsible for that 4 years ago, because that has set up a wonderful foundation for where we're going forward. We have a wonderful logo. We have a wonderful current website. So, given that, why are we doing a refresh right now? Or why are we doing a refresh right now? All right? All right, this is really reason number one. We know that at least half of all the visitors to St. John's are pulling up our website on some kind of mobile device, and our current website just doesn't support this. So this is a big change in technology since 2013. Whoop, go. There we go. The other reason, we'll call it big data. This is not the deep state. But we actually know, we don't know like when you visit, but we know the trends when folks come to the website and what they're looking for and what they can find and what they can't find. And we know the data shows us, guess what? People want to know the service times. They want to know that today was a 10 o'clock service. You've never done that before, right? They want to know calendar and events, and you look at all the wonderful events we have going on right now. They want news, they want sermons. The other thing to keep in mind is that 50% of visitors skip our homepage. They don't start their visits at our homepage because of this thing called Google, and other things, but mainly Google. The third thing is we want to provide a little more focus for folks who are visiting, who are new to St. John's, who are church shopping. And rather than hitting people with 1,000 words, which Episcopalians are really good at doing, hello, we want to show what St. John's is all about. So, ready for a sneak preview? That's what this is. This is a sample of what one of the pages will look like. You'll see more of these big pictures. You will very clearly find out when the services are going to be. You don't have to search through the site for that. Big difference. It's going to work no matter what device you have, whether it's a desktop, tablet, whatever your phone is, it's going to look great. You're going to find what you're looking for. We're going to be a whole lot easier to navigate because the items that folks are looking for are going to be available on every page of the site. So if you're on desktop, it's going to look like this, which is a little bit different from what we currently have, but news is right up front, calendar right up front, sermons right up front on every single page. Ministries, this goes back to the core four. So this is supporting everything that you've heard this morning. And that's the way it looks on desktop. That's the way it looks on mobile. With mobile, you have a navigation that comes down like that. All righty. So one of the things our website doesn't do right now, it doesn't really support, the technology doesn't support, is to feature special events. We have our big calendar, but not something that will do this. It will show the special events coming up. So this is when Connie Morella came to speak. So you could see a calendar like that. You can click on it. You can get the whole event like that. You know where it is, when it is, who to contact if you have questions. So we will have new support for that. New section, something in particular that Sari really wanted, which is I'm new. If you're a visitor, here are all the things you might have questions about. A message from Sari. You have the service times. You get to the sermons very quickly. So that's a whole new section that will be available from the home page. It will be available if you're in mobile. There will be a button right at the top. So these are all ways to get to that information. And finally, you will see a lot more of us showing you what St. John's is about, not just telling you, showing you all the life events, our wonderful music program, our staff and leadership, special events, community. This is what community is all about. And that's it. So you see, we have wonderful photographs. I want to put out a quick call. First, a quick thanks to Mary Plocky, who is not here with us today because she's out on the Appalachian Trail. And she has done an amazing job of providing photographs for us for the website, but we do need some additional photography support for the site. So if you have those skills and the time and would like to step up for that, we could really use your help, and thank you very much.
I'd like to invite Karen Berry to come up now. Just really fast, give you a sneak preview.
Has this ever happened to you? You show up for church and you meet someone, you want to get in touch with them, but you don't have their contact information at all. Or you are in part of a new koinonia group, but you can only remember the first names of the people in your group. Well, I've got great news. Beginning in May, you'll have access to St. John's new online directory. And we're excited because we believe this will be a great tool for building community and connecting St. John's members to each other. We're using a new database system. It's called Breeze, aptly named because it's really easy to use, really easy to access. It's cloud-based, which means you'll be able to register your account, and then you can access this information from any device, computer, smartphone, tablet, whatever. You can log in, you can look up members by first or last name, and you'll be able to view their address, email addresses, phone numbers, etc. And you can also go in and update your contact information, and this will ensure that we'll always have a current and accurate directory. And you can also upload a picture of you and your family. There are two other great features of this database system. You'll be able to go online, go into your account and view your pledge and contribution information. So at any given time, you can track what your contributions have been up to date. And the other wonderful thing, you'll be able to make online contributions. So you can make one-time contributions or set up recurring payments from your checking account if you prefer. Or credit card. So the directory is password protected, so it's only available to members of St. John's who have registered an account. Your contribution information can only be accessed by you through your login information, and the online contribution is managed through a secure site. So in mid-May, we'll be holding an informational session that it'll walk you through how to register and how to use Breeze. And at that time, you can ask any questions you might have. So in the meantime, let me know if you want to opt out of the directory, if you don't want to make your information viewable, and look forward to this new great tool. We're really excited about the system and how it will help us grow together as a community.
So again, mark your calendar for Mother's Day, May 13. That's when Karen will be doing informational more on this. John, would you come forward and tell us? It's okay. We'll get to you in a second, Roxy. Here we go.
Thanks for everybody for your voting today. Just to restate, we have Jonna Story and John Stewart as our new senior and junior warden, elected to a full term for vestry of Beth Campbell, Julie Grahofsky, Maura Lynch, and Christopher Nee, and Carol Bartholomew is taking the partial term. For lay delegate, Tim Dobbin will be our lay delegate, and Tom Ebert our alternate. Congratulations.
So I'm really impressed. We started 10 minutes late, and we're only 5 minutes behind. So Roxy, if you'll come forward. Roxy's our exiting senior warden. She's just going to offer her remarks, and then we will close our meeting.
Wow, how wonderful to be last in the lineup after this terrific celebration of our parish life, our worship life, everything that we stand for here at St. John's. Thank you, Sari. We've had such wonderful progress with Sari as our leader. I think that he has helped us live into our potential. as a parish, and certainly for many of us as individuals who've had the chance to work with Sari individually. It's just been a wonderful journey having a leader who can recognize us for the potential that we may not have fully recognized. And then we were smart enough to pick him, and Sari came to help us, and here we are, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're doing well, aren't we? We have such a promising future. We have so many dynamic things happening, and there's certainly no need for me to try to review anything because we've had this fabulous review this morning. I've been thinking about a thing that's going on over on Old Georgetown Road. If any of you have been traveling up and down Old Georgetown Road, you will have noticed it's kind of difficult to get around. A couple weeks ago, being a pedestrian, I had the chance to walk up to this crew and see what's going on. And they had taken the lid off the storm drain. Well, now they've taken the lids off several of the storm drains, and apparently they're doing something important. I don't know what it is. You see a couple of people on top. And I had a chance as a pedestrian to walk up and see that there are people down in the system. And I had to stop and look and see, whoa, this is a vast underground network that makes this whole storm system work. If we didn't have it, we would have a lot of problems. Bethesda would not be what it is. Well, certainly, I'm overstating that, but it did make me think about St. John's. We have this vast underground network of people who do things like putting out watermelon, people who build apartments for refugees, people who help with a worship service behind the scenes, as it were. And they're people that we don't often say thank you to, and yet they are us, aren't they? We have people who stand up on top and are a bit more visual, and thank you, Jana. You've got a wonderful person coming in for your senior leadership. And of course, with Sari orchestrating all of this, inspiring us and leading us, it's a particularly wonderful time in the life of St. John's. But it takes every one of us, and I think that's maybe the point I really want to make. It takes every one of us, and I thank you, and I see you, and I know so many of you, and I'm happy to embrace you and say thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to have spent these 8 years with the vestry. It's been the time of my life.
And that's it. Everyone, thank you so much. Thanks for making St. John's what it is. God bless you. See you next Sunday.